Welcome back. Today we're diving into a really powerful idea that true success isn't just about what you accomplish on the outside, it's about how you sync that up with your inner world. So we're going to break down a whole framework for making those two things work together.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a pretty tough question, because the source material really challenges a super common idea, that being spiritual and being successful in the world are two different things. Or even worse, that spirituality is a good excuse for not hitting your goals. It really asks us to take a hard, honest look at whether we're using these big ideas to just, justify our own shortcomings.
So, here's the journey we're about to go on. First, we'll talk about aligning our inner space. Then we'll get into the art of taking action without getting all tangled up in the results. After that, we'll zoom out to explore our connection to, well, everything. And we'll wrap it all up by showing how some really ancient wisdom actually has the answers to our most modern problems.
First up, aligning your inner space. And this is so important because it's the foundation for everything else. It's all about getting our own internal compass for success pointing in the right direction before we even try to achieve anything out in the world.
Now, this right here is a really critical distinction. On one side, you've got cosmetic success. This is when we kind of slap a spiritual label on our failures. Like saying, well, I'm poor, but I'm holy. The source says that's a total trap. On the other side, you have cosmic success. And that's when what you want, what society values, and what the universe itself supports are all in perfect harmony. It's the ultimate alignment.
And wow, this quote just hits you right between the eyes, doesn't it? The source is completely unapologetic here. Creating wealth isn't unspiritual. In fact, it's a blessed thing to do, as long as you're doing it the right way. The message is crystal clear. Stop pretending your failures are sacred and start seeing real-world success as part of your spiritual path.
So you might be asking, okay, but how do I actually do that? Well, the source introduces this concept, this energy, called Virabhadra. Think of it like your inner warrior. It's that part of you that absolutely refuses to make excuses. It's the force that stares your failures right in the face and, instead of trying to justify them, decides to conquer them. It's all about radical, no-holds-barred honesty with yourself.
So, once you've done that hard inner work and aligned your internal world, what's next? Well, that brings us right to part 2, action without attachment. This is all about how you actually go out and do things in the world effectively. The source has a really different take on what a high achiever is. It's got nothing to do with your job title or your salary. It's an attitude. It's about bringing your absolute A-game, total excellence, and a ton of curiosity to every single thing you do. Doesn't matter if you're sweeping the floor or running a massive company. Excellence just becomes who you are.
I absolutely love this metaphor. Most of us think the goal of meditation or spirituality is to make the mind still, right? For the water to become frozen like ice. But the source says, nope, that's not it. The real goal is to think with such incredible power and focus that your thoughts actually transcend themselves and turn into steam, disappearing into a higher level of consciousness. It's not about stopping thought, it's about elevating it.
And here's the catch, and it is a big one. The biggest trap you can fall into when you're taking action is getting attached to the outcome. The second you need that reward, whether it's money or praise or just validation, you've given up your freedom. You've basically become a psychological slave to whoever has the power to give you that reward.
And the source gives us a really practical way to break out of that trap. It's called the Non-Profit Challenge. For just 1 year, make a decision. You're not going to do things based on what you get in return. Instead, you're going to focus 100% on delivering, on achieving, on just living fully without that little mental calculator constantly running. Now, this isn't about not making a living. It's about shattering that psychological link between your actions and the reward.
All right, we've talked about our inner world and we've talked about our actions. Now let's zoom all the way out. Way out, to the biggest picture there is. Section 3 is all about the truth of oneness, our deep connection to everything.
According to the source, this is the ultimate truth. Every single life form is actually a part of you. Just think about it like this. A wave isn't really separate from the ocean, right? In the same way, the life force inside you isn't separate from the life force of the entire cosmos. It's one fundamental, unbreakable connection.
And here's what's so wild about this. The source claims you don't need to spend decades meditating in a cave to get this. It says, some truths are so fundamental that if your body is just clean and your mind is relaxed, you can literally catch this feeling of oneness just by hearing it explained. It's not some massive spiritual hurdle to overcome, it's a simple insight waiting to be recognized.
So to help us build this connection, the Source gives us these 5 principles, the niyamas. And you can think of them like ripples in a pond, an expanding wave of coherence. It starts with sucha, or purity, which gets your own body in alignment. Then comes santosha, happiness, which extends that harmony out to your friends and community. Tapa, endurance, makes your whole society stronger. Swadhyaya, intellectual growth, elevates all of civilization. And finally, Ishwara Pranidhana, surrender, brings the entire cosmos into alignment. All right, let's bring all of this back down to earth for our final section, ancient wisdom for modern problems. How can these incredible, old ideas help us with the stuff we're dealing with right here, right now?
Here's the thing. The Source doesn't look at the Vedic tradition as some dusty old relic. It's presented as a living science. And the core argument is that because this wisdom grew up in total harmony with nature, it already figured out the solutions to our biggest modern problems, war, conflict, inequality, you name it, centuries and centuries ago. The problems aren't actually new, just the packaging is.
And if you think that sounds a bit abstract, check out this super fascinating concrete example. This is not just philosophy. The Vedic tradition actually identified specific musical patterns, called ragas, that it claimed have direct effects on our bodies and minds. I mean, look at this list. Specific music to lower your blood pressure, to improve your focus, or even to cool down your anger. That is a seriously sophisticated science of sound.
Now let's talk about a very modern problem, inner garbage. I love that term. It's all the mental and emotional junk we create every day. The stress, the anxiety, the anger. And just like a massive city struggling with its physical trash, we don't have a good system for getting rid of it. So what do? We just dump it on each other.
So what's the solution for all this inner garbage? The Source proposes a practice it calls entemplement. It's basically the act of consciously connecting all the big areas of your life, your business, your family, your major decisions, to a higher energy or purpose. By offering all that stuff up to something bigger than yourself, you create this amazing internal system for processing and clearing out all that waste.
So let's quickly recap the big ideas we've covered. First, real success is about total alignment, getting your inner self, your social self, and your cosmic self on the same page. Second, real achievement comes from doing things without being chained to the reward. Third, the deepest truth is that we are all interconnected. And finally, ancient wisdom isn't just old stories. It's a practical toolbox for the problems we face today.
And I want to leave you with this final, profound thought. The Source completely reframes the idea of responsibility. It's not a burden, it's not work, it is power. It's your responsibility, your ability to create a response. So the question I'll leave you with is this. What part of your life will you take full responsibility for? And in doing that, what power will you claim for yourself starting today?